Hello, everyone. Today we have Mr. David Cummings here with us on WCAT BizChats. And would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done in the business world? Just for introduction.
Sure. I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. So I've started a number of software companies, a few hospitality companies, a real estate company.
Mhm.
And in Atlanta here, I have what's called the Atlanta Tech Village. And so the
Yes.
Tech Village is one of the largest entrepreneurship centers in the country. So at any given moment, we have between 300 and 350 different startups working on ideas from the napkin stage,
Mhm.
pre-revenue, up to millions of dollars of revenue.
Yeah.
And we know that you're a Duke alum as well, and that in your blogs, and it's quite known that you chased your first client from Duke with an investment to Atlanta, which kind of situated you into the city. And my first question is kind of in retrospect, what lessons and limitations do you think you've established as far as taking risk? Whereas you're an experienced entrepreneur now, do you believe that your perspective or decision making has changed as far as chasing opportunity?
So I didn't perceive it as chasing opportunity
Mhm.
back in the day. I viewed it as more, hey, we've signed a big customer. I was living in North Carolina at the time, right near the Duke campus.
Yeah.
And so after signing the big customer, looking for a place to grow the business, it made it easy to relocate to be inside the customer's office.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, one of the big lessons learned is that it's easy to pontificate about what the future holds and
Yeah.
what the customer might want. But when you're sitting next to them, talking to them face to face, you eliminate the telephone game. You eliminate the
Mhm.
in-between stuff that happens that, hurt some of the communication.
Yeah, and you kinda carried that on with creating the Atlanta Tech Village, kind of that in-person, tangible, physical interaction, and how do you think that's helped the Tech Village and, as well as you and your business ventures?
Yeah, the big aha moment for the Tech Village is that entrepreneurs love helping each other.
Right.
They love being a part of something bigger than themselves. That's why they start their company.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurs, just like everybody else, are usually good at one thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're generalists, they're jack of all trades, but they might be good at sales or marketing
Mhm.
or fundraising or product development.
Yeah.
But when you bring a bunch of entrepreneurs together,
Mhm.
they help each other.
Yeah.
So they create an environment where, hey, you're good at sales, I'm good at product development. Let's help each other, and then we're both better
Yeah.
off.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And upon that theme of what you call engineered serendipity, which I really like, it's a really cool phrase. Do you find any value specifically that probably digitalization can't replace as far as some sort of difference in person action or speech or communication rather than right over the telephone or long distance type of thing? So what would you say is that intangible value that Atlanta Tech Village is really based upon?
So people, even with all the technology we have, still love being with each other.
Yeah.
Humans are tribal, in our very DNA.
Right.
And so you think about like the sporting world, like you could go out and you could hit a baseball by yourself, or you could run a play on the football field by yourself, but it's not nearly as fun as having a team around you, as having people cheering you on, as having opponents.
Yeah.
And so you can recreate things
Mhm.
in the digital world or in a solo fashion, but it's so much more fun with people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, there are high highs, there are low
Of
lows.
course. Yeah.
One day you sign a new customer and you double your revenue, and then the day after that, your key employee quits.
Yeah.
And so being around each other through these different, life experiences just makes them a lot richer.
Right. A lot richer.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of experience in entrepreneurship now. What fundamental skills do you think are essential just to be an entrepreneur? If anyone out there is listening and they're saying, that's what I want to do when I'm older, what are some skills they need to focus on?
I think it's mostly soft skills.
Hmm.
So it's resilience and grit. It's working really hard to understand the problem.
Hmm.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, it's easy to think about the field of dreams. If I build this new widget, people will just start buying it. Or if I invent the new mousetrap, people will just start buying it.
Right.
But it's so much harder because, you go on the internet and any idea you could think of is already there. And so
Hmm.
maybe the person who proposed it before was too early. Maybe they weren't resourceful enough to find the money or the people or the,
Yeah.
the innovations to make it happen. But I think it's the softer skills are really important. Figuring out what people really want, figuring out how to get in the door when everybody says no,
Right.
figuring out how to convince people when they think it's a bad idea because they've tried it before and it didn't work, but maybe you have a slightly different take on it, and that could be the thing that unlocks it. If you think about the Atlanta Tech Village, when I started it 13 years ago, people said it was a bad idea. And they said it was a bad idea because office space generally was for established companies that had operating history and they had profits on the balance sheet so they could pay the bills on time.
Right.
People said it was a bad idea because, from a business point of view, having startups, they might go out of business the next month. And who wants to put all this capital to work and renovate a building and put a bunch of money into it when your tenants might close up shop the next month?
Yeah.
Most of commercial real estate's geared around,
Of course. Yeah.
big companies that'll sign a 10 or 20-year lease, and the money's as good as gold in some cases.
Yeah. And of course, in the world of entrepreneurship, there's this emphasis on financial stability or some financial backing to a certain venture, right? And I was going to ask, upon that premise, what would you define as a quote sustainable corporation or organization, one such that might be in your Atlanta Tech Village, aside from the financials, or kind of characteristically within the work environment, within the work culture? What would you define that or see that as?
So on the business side, it's strange because you hope that they can keep raising money, right? The vast majority of the startups are not profitable.
Right.
And so at some level, the entrepreneur needs to be good at selling the vision, because fundraising is, often selling the vision. But then on the tactical level, you want to see some progress around signing customers and bringing revenue in. Even if it isn't enough to pay all the bills, you can still see plenty of breadcrumbs that this is working. So the ability to sell is also an important trait, because they have to sell the employees to come join the team. They have to sell the investors to write a check into the business. They have to sell the potential customers, because, one of my favorite sayings for entrepreneurs is nothing ever happens until something is sold. Right? So you think about that. You could have the best idea in the world, but if you can't sell somebody else on using this thing you're going to make, or you can't sell a potential employee or a potential co-founder to join you on the journey, or you can't sell an investor to write a seed check, an angel check into the business. So nothing really happens until something gets sold. And selling isn't just selling a product to a person. There's lots of different forms of selling.
Simple but true.
Yeah, so there's a lot of skills you're talking about. Sounds, like it's almost people skills too, being personal and things like that. Where did you learn stuff like that? Was that in college, or was that just kind of being in the business for this time now? Where was that?
Lots of trial and error. Yeah. When I was in high school and middle school, I built software and sold it as apps. So sold it on different websites. And these are apps that you would install on your laptop, on your PC.
Right.
And then built a bunch of websites. And so I sold different small business owners and nonprofits on, hey, let me go in and update your website. Let me fix it up. Let me modernize it. Let me add some online marketing tools for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And so lots of trial and error, just selling things, mostly business type things, to business owners, small businesses at the time, and learning from it.
Yeah. And upon that basis, you seem to have Atlanta Tech Village seems to have a very decentralized role in helping the flourishing, I guess, of Atlanta startups, where it provides this space, this environment, this ecosystem for them to succeed. And I was going to ask, what really inspired you to get more into that decentralized role rather than be, I guess, the powering engine behind a single startup vision and keep pushing forward and forward and forward?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the, plant 1,000 seeds and you don't know what kind of flowers will bloom, or, a variation on that is, if you want to sit under a shade tree, you should have planted the seed 20 years ago, but the next best time to do it is right now. So in that same vein, have a lot of different entrepreneurs under the same roof, lots of different experiences, knowing that most won't work out. Most businesses fail, most startups don't succeed, but one that succeeds or a couple that succeed, there's a power law, especially in the tech world.
Yeah.
So you might have 100 failures and one success,
Mhm.
and that one success was so magnificent that it more than paid for all the failures and created lots of jobs and created lots of
Yeah.
wealth and helped the community and, made a little difference in the world.
Yeah.
So having lots of startups under the same roof, knowing that most will fail, but the ones that win, hopefully will win in a big way. And we've seen that play out. We've had a bunch of multi-billion-dollar companies come out of the Atlanta Tech Village.
Wow. It's amazing.
It's kind of crazy.
It's a lot of
isn't it?
zeros.
Yeah, it's hard to
Um,
imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. You said you would create things like apps or, data and software when you were in middle school and high school. And nowadays AI can do that for you.
Mhm.
ChatGPT or Claude. How has the introduction or the rise of AI either helped or hindered the Atlanta Tech Village or just the entrepreneurship landscape in general?
I think the vibe coding and the AI, different, codecs and cursor and Claude and
Yeah.
everything else is amazing.
Uh-huh.
I think it, again, along the ideas of let 1,000 flowers bloom, it lowers the barrier to entrepreneurship. So
Mhm.
it makes it easy for entrepreneurs to build an app, to build a website, to build,
Yeah.
video games, all kinds of stuff. And so it does create more competition. So there's a lot more people competing for different ideas now because the
Mm.
bar went down. But I think in terms of getting started, it's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you think about successful companies, a lot of the ideas and products that we use existed before the one we use. Like we use Google on a regular basis.
Right.
Google was like the 15th or 20th search engine that came along. So you could have, in today's equivalent, you could have vibe coded a search engine of the
Of
internet,
course. Yeah.
but just because you could do it doesn't make it good.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so there still is a big element of human ingenuity
Right.
of solving the problem. The vibe coding, you say, hey, make an app that does X. It can do that.
Yep.
But is it the most elegant way to do it? Is it the most beautiful way to do it? Is it the most efficient way to do it?
Mhm.
Is it the most cost-effective way to do it? I think it also creates an environment where distribution becomes much more difficult and much more important.
Mhm.
So I can build the software, but can I get it into the hands of the users?
Right.
And so there's going to be a lot of creativity and effort and trial and error that's going to take to distribute the product, both to
Yep.
businesses for business products, and then of course consumers. Just think about how, Instagram and Snap and others, like how much they dominate. Like imagine if you invented the next competitor to Snapchat
Yeah.
and you vibe coded it, how would you get the word out?
Yeah.
And then you got the network effects of my friends are already on it and my Snap maps, and like it's just really, really hard.
Yeah. And upon that note, we see so many startups in today's world, especially with the basis of using AI to vibe code or form the basis of what their product might be. And then there's more emphasis on containing this big share of the market, what you talked about, right? How am I going to actually get this into people's hands? And I was going to ask, why do you think so many startups fail before that $1 million revenue mark, of which you've talked about in your blogs? And it seems to be this very concrete threshold that,
Yeah, I think most of the time the products that are built are incrementally better,
Mhm.
right? So you use product A as a business primarily
Mhm.
or as a consumer. Somebody comes along with product B, and product B is just a little bit better.
Okay.
It's 10% better. It's got a couple extra modules. It's got a interface that's slightly better.
Mhm.
But as we know, it's hard to change people.
Yeah.
It's hard to change behavior. And we also know, like, hey, you should work out often. You should eat your green vegetables. Like, we know these things. Just because we know them, it doesn't mean that we actually do it and take it to heart and change our habits. Like, it's really hard to change human habits.
yeah.
And so instead of products just being 10% better, they have to be 10 times better, or they have to be so overwhelmingly better that you're willing to change. And so most products, most startups build something that's just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so they get a little revenue and they get a few customers, but they never achieve escape velocity because it's not 10 times better. It doesn't
Mhm.
Okay.
completely change the way you interact with your friends or the way the business does their sales process or something that's a lot harder to change.
Yeah. So what was that, 10 times moment with a company like Calendly or Salesloft for you?
So Calendly is in the scheduling software space.
Mhm.
So it makes it really easy to schedule a meeting on somebody's calendar. This is not a novel idea.
Mhm.
It's been around for decades. There are lots of products out there that did it before Calendly. But the aha moment, the big breakthrough, was removing all the clicks, all the friction, as much of the interface as possible, and making it as dead simple as you can absolutely do to schedule a meeting with somebody. So before, there were products where you would click the link to schedule the meeting, and they would ask you questions and show you different screens and require more and more clicks. And Calendly came along and stripped all the extra stuff away and made it simple and beautiful.
Mhm.
And so because of that, more people were able to convert. So if I click the link and I don't fill out the scheduling form,
Mhm.
I didn't convert. But if I click the link and then I schedule a meeting on your calendar,
Mhm.
or I book an appointment like a parent-teacher conference, or I book an appointment like a sales call, the higher the conversion rate, the more valuable the product is. And so Calendly went really simple and beautiful, and that increased the conversion rate of people clicking the link and actually booking the appointment.
Yeah.
And so that made Calendly way more valuable than the existing tools on the market.
Yeah, and all just because it was easier to do. Yeah.
Right.
Easier, and the easier turned into the higher conversion rate.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you can make products that are easier to use, but you have to have some value from that easier
Right.
element. And so the easier element here turned into more appointments booked, higher satisfaction of the people using the tools. And then the special sauce on the Calendly side is the viral distribution.
Okay.
So I send you the link, you click it, you schedule a meeting on my calendar,
Mhm.
you have a great experience, and then the light bulb goes off. Well, my sales team needs to use this software, or
Right.
my customer support team needs to use this software, or my parent-teacher conferences at my school need to be powered by this software, or my doctor's office for the psychologist that I go see, the psychologist needs to use this software. And so the viral distribution of it was really what set it apart. But to have that, it needed to be an experience that people wanted to use, an interface that felt
Yeah.
comfortable and intuitive. And then you needed the business benefit of the increased conversion rate from the better experience in the app, the UI UX.
Yeah. And there's a certain power to the spread of word of mouth, right? You can advertise or market constantly, but if your product isn't getting in the hands of people and people are able to enjoy and realize that new seamless experience, it's not going to be something that they would possibly reciprocate later on. And I was going to ask, how do you navigate situations where you might have a really good product, but not great marketing, or great marketing and not a great product? What do you think is more important, especially in an era of AI, digitalization, where everything's online today?
I do agree that word of mouth is your best form of product market fit, like how well the product that you've built
Mhm.
meets the needs and the wants of
Yeah.
the market. And so we've all used products before that, like, it was fine or it was okay. And then we've also used products where it's like, wow, I use that and I have to tell my friends about it.
Mhm.
I have to show my buddy like how great this thing is.
Yeah.
So I've had a Tesla for 12 years, the Model S, and really in the last 12 months, the full self-driving has gotten really good where the car just drives me around. 98% of all of my driving in the last 12 months has been by the computer. I have not driven the car for 98% of the last thousands of miles I've driven, even in traffic, even on the interstate, even in the roundabouts and the stoplights and everything else.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so after being a manual car driver for the past 30 years of my life, the fact that the last 12 months the computer has done it for me, the product market fit is there, the word of mouth is there. And so
Mhm.
every time, I'm talking to a friend or they're in the car with me, I'm like, hey, watch this. And I want to show them how amazing it is.
Yeah.
And that's a form of word of mouth marketing.
Mhm.
Like the product, the experience, the technology is so good that I want others to know about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's a really high bar. It's really hard to achieve, but the most successful products in the world have all achieved it.
Yeah.
So you think about Instagram, you think about Google search, you think about ChatGPT,
Mhm.
Yeah.
they've all achieved it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's like, wow, I want to tell others about this.
Yeah.
So I do agree that word of mouth is one of the best forms of product market fit.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
that's a pretty profound takeaway, I would say, because a lot of times it's quite elusive, you could argue, with a lot of marketing and a lot of kind of attention attracting advertisements, whereas the most powerful basis to actually get your business out there is having a good product, right? And that product
Yes.
speaking for itself, such that you don't need to over rotate on marketing, right?
There's plenty of companies that are successful that do spend a lot on marketing.
Yeah.
We can't,
The Super
you know,
Bowl commercials. Is my
right.
favorite.
Yeah. Let's think of like cell phone companies. Like
Yeah.
how many ads do you see for AT&T and Verizon, and like
Oh yeah.
that's a fully saturated market
Uh-huh.
that has 99% penetration, but yet there's still, billions of dollars a year worth of cell phone ads just in the US alone.
Yeah.
So there's still a role for marketing, and there's still a role for products that do a good job but don't have as much passion behind them. But the ones that are most successful, the ones that create the most value, are almost always the ones that have the most word of mouth behind them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. In the business world a little bit, I know you're around a lot of entrepreneurs and people that are pretty high up and even maybe not, but who in that type of world do you admire most and why? Like, who do you look up to? Who maybe inspired you?
Yeah, so I love reading about all the entrepreneurs out there. I've
Mhm.
read tons of the entrepreneur autobiographies
Oh yeah.
and biographies. There's so many good ones. Some of my favorite ones, the founder of Nike shoes,
Yeah, Phil Knight.
Phil Knight, has a spectacular book called
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great book.
Yeah, highly recommend. Even if you don't like entrepreneur stories,
Mhm.
it's amazing just to learn about all the different things that went into building Nike to where it is today. And then, just really inspired by the entrepreneur stories, especially on the struggle side,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of, hindsight is 2020. There's a lot of survivorship bias in the entrepreneur world.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I built this great company and it worked out well, and here's what I learned.
Mhm.
But I know that's not the case. There's always challenging times. There's always stories of things that didn't go well.
Mhm.
And so I enjoy learning those just as much as the what worked well.
Yeah.
But definitely a fan of the entrepreneurial stories of like the Richard Branson,
Mhm.
who
Oh
did
yeah.
Virgin Airways,
Virgin Galactic.
Virgin
Yeah.
Galactic, and a bunch of other stuff. He's got a couple amazing autobiographies of different things he tried, different entrepreneurial ventures, some that worked, some that didn't work.
Right.
And so I think it's really important to just humanize it.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that is really helpful about the Tech Village and other similar type entrepreneur centers is that when you walk down the hall and you see somebody, a person sitting there working or in a conference room talking, and that person has already built a company that's, worth, $1 billion, literally,
Mhm.
it just makes it feel like, oh, they're just a person.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a little lucky. Maybe they worked really hard. Maybe they got some big breaks along the way, but it's just a person. It's easy to put people up on pedestals and say like, oh man, I could never do what they do. But when you're in an environment where you see the person and you shake their hand or you walk by them in the hall, it makes it feel so much more attainable.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big benefit of having a strong entrepreneurial community, both of active entrepreneurs like at the Tech Village, as well as entrepreneurs that have gone before them and have had, major success. When they give back and they are approachable as well,
Yeah.
I think that all helps.
Yeah, it goes to the quote, it's like you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I think that community is really great.
And more upon, I guess, the people you surround yourself with. Hiring is a very important aspect as far as a startup and creating that strong ecosystem around you to create a thriving environment. And I was going to ask, what do you prioritize in the hiring process? I know in your blog you mentioned a lot about prioritizing moral values such as positivity over maybe performance-based values. And I was going to ask, why might that be?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of aligning the company around the core values of the founder
Mhm.
or of what the founder wants to be around. So in my case, it was wanting to be around people who are positive, self-starting, and supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So positive in the sense of glass half full types, right? If you're
Right.
a startup and you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before that is very hard and is going to have lots of challenges,
Mhm.
it's so much more fun to be around people who are glass half full,
Yep.
Yeah.
a little bit of, uh, I like the term blissfully ignorant as to,
Yeah.
Ignorant.
what's on the horizon
And
in a nice way. Like,
yeah, and sometimes delusional in a good way.
yeah,
Right.
Like
yeah,
I know I can do this. Like it's gonna happen for me. I'm gonna be the one to do it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so every success story has had an entrepreneur that believed they could do it.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times it doesn't work out, but it's worked out plenty of times.
Mhm.
And so positive, self-starting, and supportive are the values that I have personally chosen for the people that I want to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Supportive for obvious reasons. It takes a team. There's the old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Same idea there. And then, positive, self-starting, you know, nowadays, a lot of people call it the doer mentality. Like you just do things, you just get stuff done. And so the self-starting is the person doesn't need to be prodded. It's not like, hey, have you done your stuff yet? Or, hey, are you, working on this thing yet? It's they have that internal motivation to just get things done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So positive, self-starting, and supportive
Yeah.
from a core values point of view have been really important to me.
Yeah. That's really cool. And to extend upon that, I was gonna ask, really, would you recommend having experienced, the highs, the lows of this entrepreneurial journey? A lot of times on social media, we see this glorified version, as you were talking about. Would you recommend someone an entrepreneurial journey, and what do you think that person needs to be prepared for or aware of before indulging themselves into such an endeavor?
Yeah, so I would recommend they find a peer group.
Mm.
So find some other entrepreneurs that are at a similar stage to where they are.
Mhm.
Could be online, could be in person, but there are lots and lots of lows to go with the highs
Mm.
of being an entrepreneur. And so having a peer group of other entrepreneurs around you can really help out. And there's groups that do that. There's a nonprofit called the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and EO has chapters in all major cities around the world and thousands of members. And so EO would be a good one for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
There's another organization called the Young Presidents Organization, YPO, which has been around for decades and has a combination of entrepreneurs and CEOs in it that get together on a regular basis and share best practices, and they share life's ups and downs.
Yeah.
So my main piece of advice is find other people that are at a similar stage to share the good and the bad with.
Yeah. That's interesting. In the business world, have you ever faced a situation where you just deeply believe in someone and what they're doing? You believe in the founder, you believe in the product they're making, but ultimately nothing is materializing. And how do you go about that?
Yeah, in the entrepreneur world, there are some people, just like anywhere else, that want to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
They try to be an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
but it's just not right for them.
Mm-hmm.
As an entrepreneur, as an example, you have to like to make decisions.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy making decisions, but some people, it's really painful for them to make a decision absent perfect information,
Yeah.
right? So some people, it just has to be perfect. They just have to have every single detail until they want to choose a direction. And then there's other people, myself included, where it's like, tell me everything you know, I'll share everything I know, and let's make a decision now.
Yeah.
In life, the vast majority of decisions are two-way doors. And so two-way doors where I make the decision, I go through the door, and then I start learning more stuff after I've gone through the door. And if I learn something that's like, this is the wrong idea, I can turn around and go back through that door.
Yeah.
Now, there's a handful of decisions as an entrepreneur and in life that are one-way doors. It's like, if I make that decision, I cannot go back. But the great news is that the vast majority, 99% of decisions are two-way doors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the decision, you can go back on it. Now, the ones that are one-way doors need a bit more time and thoughtfulness. But as an example, entrepreneurs should like to make decisions.
Yeah.
And some people don't like to make decisions, and it's hard when they become an entrepreneur and then they realize, oh man, I have to make a lot of decisions all the time.
Yeah.
And it's absent perfect information or even good information sometimes.
Yeah. And there's this quote that there's more lost in being indecisive than making the quote wrong decision, right?
Yeah.
And that's very true, just based on what you've been saying.
There's a similar one where many entrepreneurs, not all, but many entrepreneurs like to chase the shiny object. So whatever the hot, trendy thing is. And so they'll go in one direction and then something else comes up. And so then they pivot to a new direction and they just keep pivoting around. And a variation of it is more startups have died from indigestion than starvation. Which indigestion is when you eat too much, you try to do too many things.
Self-inflicted, yeah.
Yeah, so more startups, more entrepreneurs have failed because they try to do too much.
Yeah.
And so, the nature of entrepreneurship is finite resources, limited team members. And so entrepreneurs that can focus in and really prioritize the most important things and get those things done typically have a better chance than the ones that are trying to be all things to all people, and they end up failing because they're not good enough for anybody or for any, client or customer.
Right. Yeah, and it's similar to that 1090 rule you talked about, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people have this right idea, they're in it, right? They're on the right track, but they are misallocating their time and their resources towards something that might not come to fruition in the long run, or doesn't matter as much for making this vision complete in the future. Right?
Yeah, another variation on that I'm a big fan of is entrepreneurs should choose the market that they want to go after and then pick an idea in the market, but not be too wedded to that idea.
Okay.
Most entrepreneurs will pick an idea like, oh, I'm going to go invent X, and they're super attached to inventing X. And they lose sight of the forest from the trees, where they might go down the path for X, but then as they're down the path for X, Y emerges, and Y is a better route to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a balance, right? The example before of like just constantly pivoting because something shiny showed up. And then the other end of the spectrum is like, I have to solve this one problem and I can't not solve that problem, but that problem might not be the best problem to solve.
Yeah.
So an example, one of the companies that we created called Pardot did marketing software. And so Pardot, we started as an engine to do Google ads to generate leads. So you buy an ad on Google, somebody clicks the ad, they fill out a form, and now they're a lead for whatever it is you're trying to sell.
Okay.
And so the business started, my idea started as a way to generate leads for companies. So they would say, oh, I want to, this is what we do. We'll pay you $100 a lead.
Okay.
And then I would go buy ads on Google and build software and landing pages and generate those leads and then sell them. And so went down that path, invested a bunch of time and energy and some money, generated some leads off of Google, brought them to the customer, showed them how we generated the lead for them. And then they said, wow, we don't want to pay you $100 per lead. We just want to pay you $1,000 a month for the software that you built to generate the lead, and we'll just run it ourselves and optimize it, and we'll invest our own money in the Google ads, and we'll use it as a software product versus a lead generation type system.
That's interesting.
And so pivoted from being, I'll sell you a lead for $100 into a software company that says, I'll sell you a platform for $1,000 a month. And then you can put as much money as you want into Google ads to generate leads through that software platform.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is it's very important to be flexible, but not, jumping at every opportunity that presents itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you got to make some progress. You got to do
Yeah.
enough of something to either know that it works or to find the better idea to pivot into.
Yeah.
And so in this example with Pardot, it was, hey, we know that marketing and lead gen and Google is going to be really important and valuable. So we picked a good market, but the idea in the market wasn't the best idea. And so started with one idea in a good market, pivoted to a different idea in the same market, and then it was a big success.
Yeah. Just quick question. What do you mean specifically when you say market?
So a market would be an industry or a vertical. And so this example was online marketing was the market that we were in.
Okay.
We started out as a lead generation service, and we pivoted it into lead generation software.
Okay.
And so a market could be automotive, a market could be outer space, and a vertical, same idea.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs out there think of themselves kind of in this CEO position, right? Where I'm going to look at this broad sector. I'm going to maybe choose an idea or possibly over focus on an idea, but it's going to be me behind the idea. And a lot of people mistake that for, right, the group needed, the environment, the culture, the help from others needed to really make an idea come to fruition. So I was going to ask, as having been a leader in an entrepreneurial endeavor, what would you really define your role as far as your contribution towards the company?
Yeah. So I like to think of it as the CEO's responsibility is really simple. It's complicated, but it's really simple at the surface level. You got to have enough cash in the bank to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever that means. So whether it's one employee or 1,000 employees, so you got to have cash in the bank to run the business. You have to set the priorities, right? So again, the indigestion versus starvation.
Yeah.
The bigger the company gets, the more people compete to have priorities within the business. And so again, you want as few as possible to achieve as much as possible. So typically like 3 priorities. So whenever I'm meeting with an entrepreneur and like, hey, give me your list of current priorities, and they start rattling off 20 things that they're working on, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
There might be 20 things on the to-do list, but there shouldn't be 20 things on the priority list. Typically 3 max. Some will push it to 5.
Right.
So the CEO should have money in the bank to keep the lights on. The CEO should set the priorities, the overarching priorities. And then the third and final thing is to recruit the best people to go on the journey with you.
Yeah.
So it's money in the bank, where we're going, strategy, priorities, and then the talent side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so very, very high level, lots of complexity to all 3 of those things.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very simple.
Yep.
Cash, strategy, and talent.
Yeah. And I know upon you trying to show that we're supposed to focus on 3 things, not 20. And I know that leaders like, say, Elon Musk really focus on getting rid of those bottlenecks. I was going to ask, having gone through multiple journeys, how do you feel as if the difficulty in really pinning down what a bottleneck might be? Because a lot of people have merit to an idea, but the process of going about to reach a market successfully, or there's some hindering factor that they can't quite identify. How do you go about that problem solving process, and really what has your experience taught you within that?
Yeah, so I like the 6 Sigma and the 5 Whys. Have you heard of the 5 Whys before?
5 whys.
I have not.
You know? Okay, so the 5 Whys is something happens, some issue emerges.
Okay.
And so you say, why did that issue emerge? And so let's go through an example. You're building software to track the baseball team, right? And so you've got an app on your phone, you vibe coded it, and you went to put in, the batter. John Smith just struck out. And so you go into the software and you click the button that says strikeout, and then you get an error message.
Okay.
Right? The software has a bug. And so then you ask the first why. Well, why does it have that bug? And so then you peel back the layers and say, well, there was, some code that was wrong, that was vibe coded incorrectly. And then you peel back layer. Well, why was it vibe coded incorrectly? Well, Codex or Cursor or Claude thought it was variable X instead of Y. Well, you ask why again. And so you see what I'm saying? You just keep asking why over and over again to drill down. They call it the 5 Whys, because typically by the time you've asked the 5th why, you've found the underlying issue. And the underlying issue in this example might be that the unit test or the continuous integration didn't have this example, correctly coded.
Mhm.
So you might have some automated test that was incorrect. And so the 5 whys ideas start from the first why.
Hmm.
Why did it happen? And then you just peel back the layers.
Right.
And that's one example that I think works really well.
Yeah.
Sort of like the first principles related to that. Like, okay, it's always been done this way, but doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
You know, is there a better way to do that? So first principles, how would we do it if we had a clean sheet? Maybe we would arrive at the way we are doing it, but maybe from a first principles perspective, we would do it a different way
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the same vein.
Yeah. So, how'd your early kind of formative years in high school, but specifically at Duke, what did those places teach you about kind of the entire space?
Yeah, I think my high school experience was one of lots of trial and error,
Mhm.
Building websites, building apps. And then when I got to college was amazing because now I was on a campus with 6 or 7,000 undergrads, thousands of grad students, professors and departments and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
from an environment point of view, just being around tons of really motivated people in the similar fashion to the advice from before for entrepreneurs. My favorite piece of advice is to find a peer group.
Mhm.
At Duke, I was able to find a peer group. I was able to find other undergrads and grad students that wanted to be entrepreneurs, that had side hustles, that had little businesses that they were building. And so I was able to find my tribe of other entrepreneurs and share stories, share experiences, work on different projects together. And so being in a community of people who are really motivated and ambitious and bright just made it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As well as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and this basis of right, like, of course, there's financials and money on the line, but having fun and ignorance is bliss as far as the development of your startup, right?
Yeah, and fun is a interesting word. I would probably say more of a journey with its ups and downs
Mhm.
that was very rewarding.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you can do things that are rewarding, but they're hard,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
right? So studying for a crazy test, and then the studying part might not have been as fun, but then you get a great grade from it, or
Mhm.
you get the recommendation to do the next course the following year. So the satisfaction side of it. So I would characterize it more as a rewarding journey than purely fun.
Right, and commitment to that journey in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Which is hard to gauge when you haven't even taken steps on that journey yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that delayed gratification. I know a bunch of leaders, especially in sports, because you do all this work, and even in baseball, you do all this work. And you might only have 2 at bats that game. How big is delayed gratification for businesses trying to start up?
I think it's huge. Yeah. In the similar vein of you have to make decisions absent perfect information, you have to keep plowing forward absent knowing how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
Right. And in the technology world, quite often, if you're too early, it's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have a good idea. Right. So the example given now would be around, 25 years ago, there was a really popular startup that did grocery delivery,
Mhm.
built a bunch of warehouses, spent huge amounts of money, and it failed spectacularly. And they were too early.
Yeah.
And nowadays, we take Instacart for granted, and you get your grocery delivery, and it's awesome, and it's a great experience. And there's kinks and bugs and stuff, but overall, it's amazing, and it's word of mouth worthy.
Yeah.
And so Instacart was an idea that had been tried 15 years prior, but the timing wasn't right because of
Yeah.
the lack of ubiquity from internet access,
Mhm.
from having a smartphone in your pocket, a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
So being too early is a failure, just like any other failure.
Mhm.
And that makes it hard because you just don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
In the ideal world, you want to be a little bit early. So you want to be early enough that there's some people, some businesses that want it. And so you can build a product, get the foundation, hire some people, build a little bit of brand, build a little bit of process. But again, you don't want to be too early because then you'll get some momentum, but then you just will never achieve escape velocity.
Yeah.
So in the ideal world, my recommendation, and again, it's oftentimes luck and timing,
Yeah.
is you want to be 3 to 5 years early. So there's still enough progress that you're feeling good, you're seeing results,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not 10 years early. Because if you're 10 years early, then you're going to be treading water for a long, long time until the market takes off.
Right. Burning cash. Yeah.
Burning cash, just burning morale, burning
Oh,
just
yeah.
your own stamina.
Yeah.
Like, I've been at this for so long and it's still not taking off. But in the ideal world, you'd be roughly 3 to 5 years early. So,
Mm-hmm.
you're 3 years early, you're making progress, you're signing customers, you have some employees, you have some raving fans, you have some word of mouth. And then 3 years into it, you just nail it. The market explodes. Everybody wants to have it. And so you have a product that's proven, you have a brand, you have people that are already doing some word of mouth marketing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're, quote unquote, at the right place at the right time. And the next 5 or 10 years are amazing because of your timing.
Yeah.
Right.
So are there some businesses that you feel like are at that 5-year early mark right now that you think are just going to hit it running in the next 5 years?
Yeah, we have several. One that we started is called In Town Golf Club.
Okay.
And so In Town Golf Club is a high-end indoor golf experience.
Yeah, I've actually been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's awesome.
what's it
Yeah.
like?
I mean, food, and it's a good atmosphere, and you can play golf with friends, and there's different, people around. I loved it. I thought it was great.
So we have,
Yeah.
a bunch of golf simulator bays, and they have games on them, golf games, and they have non-golf games on them too. But the idea is that people want to hang out with their friends, and they want a setting where they have great food and great drinks and great ambiance. And so this is something that we created a few years ago. It's actually, yesterday was our 5-year anniversary.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's cool.
And so if we would have done this 10 years ago, it wouldn't have worked.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it wouldn't have worked is that the technology wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You could hit a golf ball with a real golf club on a simulator 10 years ago, but the experience wasn't that good. The graphics weren't that good. The realism of it wasn't that amazing. But call it 6, 7 years ago, on the technology side, it got spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
full on 4K video game quality. You hit real balls, real clubs.
Yeah.
And so we knew the technology was there, but from a marketplace point of view, nobody had created a high-end indoor golf club experience.
Right.
So tech was ready, but the hospitality wasn't.
Yeah.
And so we took a leap of faith and said, hey, we're going to take this technology that you can buy off the shelf, but we're going to package it up with great food and great ambiance and great locations in different financial districts of different cities. And now we have In-Town Golf Club in Atlanta and Charlotte and Nashville and Houston and Columbus, Ohio and Philadelphia. And in a few months, we open up Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have a whole bunch of other cities we're going to go to after that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So
It's really cool.
Yeah. And you talked about, right, you plan on expanding, and how your journey, I guess, with In-Town Golf Club is something that will really be clarified and materialized down the road. And that right now there's a vision. And to that point, I was going to ask.
and we
I
have
know-
some clubs open, and we have thousands of members now,
Right.
Yeah.
but we're only in 6 cities.
Of course. Yeah.
And,
there's
like,
much more.
How many cities out there can support it? We think,
Yeah.
50 to 100 just in the US alone are big enough to support it,
Yeah.
not counting international. So tons of room to run from a startup point of view.
Yeah. And for a lot of startups that may not have that foundation of a leader such as yourself and maybe the group you have around yourself, they might be burning cash or not have the financials to really look down the road and say, I have this vision and I'm super optimistic about it. And I was going to ask, where do you draw the line between optimism and, I guess, delusion in a sense?
Yeah, that's a really tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to have some delusion.
Yeah.
Again, I would go back to the blissfully ignorant
Mm-hmm.
combined with optimism,
Okay.
combined with the positivity, the glass half full element of it. But that's a really hard one, especially if you're too early to a market, right? So you still believe, you still want this thing to be amazing, but maybe you've been working at it for 5 years and it hasn't taken off yet.
Right.
And so that's the hardest. These ones where you think you're onto something,
Yeah.
but the rest of the world doesn't believe it or buy into it, or it's not good enough yet, or whatever the case might be. So in the ideal situation, you're a little bit early. So In-Town Golf was a little bit early and opened up our Atlanta location. And quickly we realized we actually weren't too early. It was the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kept opening more and more locations, and they've been awesome. And so, the timing was good. But if you would have talked to people when we first started working on it, a lot of people said, hey, why would I ever play golf indoors when I can go play golf outdoors?
Yeah.
And it's more fun outdoors. Well, it's actually fun indoors too.
It's pretty fun indoors.
And there's a lot of, you eliminate a lot of variables in terms of like, is it raining outside? Is it too cold outside?
Can
Is
I
it
get
too
a
hot
tee
outside?
time?
Can I get a tee time?
Yeah.
Did we just have a time change and it's dark at 5 p.m. and
Yeah.
so now I can't go play outside because it's dark, but I can still play inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had hoped those things were right. And, we took the leap of faith and built the first location in Atlanta, and it proved to be right.
That's awesome.
Right. And I guess one thing we can take away is that all entrepreneurs, no matter what they're behind, should have this hope, right? Or that they are backing their own hard work and their own time behind whatever they're trying to make come to fruition, in a sense, right?
Yes. And it's hard though.
It is.
It's very hard because you don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on our first episode of WCAT BizChats. I'm Wyatt Garfinkle. This is Mr. David Cummings, and this is Izayn. And we will see you for our next episode soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.